My friends, what we're about to see now is the historical document that proves the center of power in Brazil changed location even before the elections. Forget the narratives from Brasilia. The world's greatest superpower has already chosen who it will talk to, and that person doesn't work at the Palácio do Planalto. Lula must be furious. Hey, while the news focuses on summit dinners and rehearsed speeches, the United States has just validated what we now call the diplomatic detour. Pay attention. Washington has built an express communication highway that simply bypasses, ignores, and isolates the current official government of Brazil, choosing a single guarantor to deal with the economic and security future of Latin America. What we're going to dissect today is not a bureaucrat's letter, but a certificate of bankruptcy for Brazilian foreign policy, and how this institutional rupture will hit your pocket directly through the real threat of heavy American tariffs. To understand the seriousness of this institutional rupture, we need to look at the vacuum. The deviation from the path began to be built at the exact moment when Itamaraty, once recognized as one of the most polished diplomatic bodies in the world, chose to drown itself in ideology. A few weeks ago, the United States government held a public hearing in its Chamber of Commerce to discuss the application of heavy trade retaliations and tariffs against Brazil. What did the official Brazilian government do to defend our economy and try to prevent the collapse of our exports, you ask me? Well, strictly speaking, it did nothing. The current administration ignored the deadline, didn't send negotiators, and didn't sign up for the tariff hearing. They left Brazil's seat empty, and the unspoken justification was that the president was going to meet Donald Trump at G7 meetings to take a photo, forcing a superficial diplomatic friendliness. But they ran away from the environment where real and technical diplomacy requires tough negotiation. And it was exactly in this unforgivable vacuum that parallel diplomacy came into play and took over the board. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and like the video. It takes a lot of work to make. Look, Senator Flávio Bolsonaro, without the power of the executive branch, did what the presidential palace refused to do. You know about this because I told you in yesterday's video. He formally signed up to speak at the American hearing and sent an official letter to the United States arguing against the tariffs. That's why career professionals at the Itamaraty are furious behind the scenes. And nobody is talking about this, but this anger doesn't come from sudden patriotism. It comes from the terror of realizing their own irrelevance. They threw away decades of credibility to protect an ideology, and now they're watching an opposition senator do the work of an entire ministry. And Washington's response didn't come from an intern or a junior diplomat. Pay attention, because that's what's making Lula furious at the Planalto Palace. The response came with full force and weight through an official letter signed by Donald Trump's right-hand man, the Secretary of State of the United States, none other than Marco Rubio. And the content of this letter is the greatest structural humiliation that current Brazilian diplomacy has ever suffered, because when the media reported on this letter, they tried to downplay the impact, focusing only on the fact that Rubio reaffirmed that the investigation into the tariffs is still ongoing. They reported it with a smile on their faces. Look at that. Flávio couldn't stop the tariffs. They can't read the board. They don't want to. They don't want to show you the truth. No one in their right mind thought that a single senator's letter would wipe out the tariff blitz overnight. The strategic victory here wasn't to cancel the tariffs now. It was to establish who is the guarantor. The fact that the U.S. Secretary of State formally responded to opposition Senator Flávio Bolsonaro, recognizing him as the official voice of Brazil in the negotiations, is the real defensive justification for this change of course. Rubio completely ignored the official president to talk to the one who is actually shaping the country's future. Do you get the logic? And the impactful translation of this letter reveals a security scenario even more shocking than the economy. The letter doesn't just talk about grains, nor just about ethanol and digital trade. It goes straight into the bloody core of South American organized crime. Marco Rubio explicitly writes, thanking the senator for his support in the recent classification of criminal factions like Comando Vermelho and PCZ as international terrorist organizations by the American government. The letter states that the violence, the criminal sophistication of these networks, and the drug and weapon routes threaten security and the hemisphere. Pay close attention to what this means. When Rubio says in an official document addressed to the opposition that the United States is taking decisive actions to dismantle these transnational factions, he is stating in a diplomatic way that the current Brazilian government has failed in a resounding way to guarantee public security in its own territory. And the data that is now in Marco Rubio's hands shows that a quarter of Brazilian territory is under the control of these factions. And this is very serious. It's not just a simple thank you letter. It's a certificate of incompetence issued by the American government directly against the current Brazilian Ministry of Justice. And in the economic sphere, the message couldn't be more transactional and ruthless. But here's what the cheerleader journalist didn't tell you about the tariff hike. Rubio didn't say the tariffs would stop. On the contrary, he pointed out a list of violations attributed to the current government's policies, including commercial discrimination against American companies, issues with the ethanol market, and even intellectual property protection. The tariffs are indeed on their way. But he left an opening, a way out. He stated directly that American decisions are based on the Department of Commerce hearing, exactly the one Flávio signed up for, and that the official government boycotted. In addition, Rubio reported optimism regarding the elections in October and the generous offer to make a transition team available to us if you are elected. The United States stated that they are ready to work cooperatively with the leadership chosen by the Brazilian people, aiming for fair and mutually beneficial trade. And what does this really mean? The path to prevent economic disaster through tariffs and closing investment deals exists, and it excludes the Palácio do Planalto. If the official Itamaraty is the only voice, retaliation will be heavy. To understand the global urgency surrounding all this movement, we need to look at the continent's mirror. And the British magazine, The Economist, a historic publication, but with an undeniably globalist bias and often aligned with the center-left, has just released a revealing editorial translated by Estadão. The headline states that Latin America is turning into Trumpland. Yes, my friends. Referring to a dramatic shift toward the conservative right. This exposes the agony of progressives on the continent. The left is no longer able to deliver the most basic needs of the population, safety in the streets, and purchasing power at the supermarket. The South American people are not shifting to the right because they received secret SMS messages or because they were victims of hidden digital tactics from an alleged hate office. The population changed course because they are tired of a gigantic state that endlessly debates issues like neutral language, identity, and oppressive regulations. While honest citizens are crushed by organized crime, gangs, and economic paralysis. The shift to the right on the continent is a desperate cry for survival, and Marco Rubio's letter proves that Washington is paying attention to this course correction, forging exclusive alliances with those who prioritize fighting criminal factions and ensuring the economic stability of our market. We are witnessing the almost suicidal isolation of an administration that bet on ideology and lost its grip on geopolitics. Brazil runs the serious risk of becoming the only country of continental scale mired in economic backwardness, while all its Latin American neighbors, driven by urgent pragmatism, are closing commercial and security bridges with Trumpland. Senator Flávio Bolsonaro, a pre-candidate for the presidency of Brazil, with a calculated and surgical maneuver, positioned himself before Washington as the indispensable guarantor. The key to reversing the tariffs and stopping the terrorist advance of the PCC and the Red Command has changed its address. It is no longer in the noble halls of Brasilia. It is in direct negotiations with the United States, bypassing the current executive. And if you don't buy into the media's reassuring narratives, if you see the gears behind this change of course, I need you to go down to the comments section right now. Prove that our strategic intelligence community reads the board before the newspaper headlines. Type in all caps now, change of course. Yes, change of course is what you're going to say there. Now pass the message to the system. My friends, Just as countries suffer for not mastering communication and allowing others to fill the power vacuum, you too may be losing ground. I need to speak directly to you who have incredible experience, brutal knowledge in your field, but who remain completely invisible in the digital world. You see other people's mediocrity being rewarded every day. Meanwhile, you record, delete, feel embarrassed, and think your time has already passed. And look at how deep into this delusion you're falling. The problem was never your lack of talent. The problem is simply the failure of a lethal communication method. The internet rewards those who know how to anchor attention in the first few seconds, who build a relentless narrative, and who open their mouths exuding a commanding presence. And that's why on July 12th, here in Curitiba, I'm going to unlock the black box of my method. I will lead an exclusive in-person immersion inside my professional studio with my team, where I will teach you the anatomy of a script for maximum retention. There will be strictly only 10 physical seats. It's the absolute practice of recording and camera positioning. And all this work on social media has already brought me more than 50 million views every month here on my platforms. And more importantly, all of this is monetized in dollars, which here in Brazil is worth 5 times more. So imagine, $100 is 500 reais. Now multiply that by 10 by 10, 0 by 1,000. This is the reality of the money you're leaving on the table. QR code on the screen. Type "I want" in the comments. Right now, unlock your authority and secure your VIP access before the 10th spot is taken and the steel door closes. Link in the description and in the first pinned comment. Come on, I'm waiting for you here to learn from my experience. It's not a prep course, it's not empty online mentoring, no. You'll be here, taking my experience with you. Now stop wasting time trying to choose a good movie to watch with your family, a cool series. I solved that for you. We created our own channel for series and movies with wonderful recommendations. And most importantly, without Cooter Walk, without whining, promoting what's good, and if there is Cooter Walk, we'll let you know, okay? So, the link is in the description, in the first pinned comment, and in the card that's appearing on your screen right now. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like on the video because it takes a lot of work to do this, my friends. Blend your mind, I'm Shimon Oliveira, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then.